Class 12th Psychology, Chapter 5 Therapeutic Approaches. Nature and process of psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is a voluntary relationship between the one seeking the treatment or the client and the one who treats or the therapist. The purpose of this relationship is to help the client solve psychological problems being faced by him or her. The relationship is conducive for building the trust of the client so that problems may be freely discussed. Psychotherapies aim at changing the maladaptive behaviors, decreasing the sense of personal distress, and helping the client to adapt better to his or her environment. The inadequate marital, occupational, and social adjustment also requires that major changes that can be in an individual's personal environment. All psychotherapeutic approaches have the following characteristics. There is systematic application of principles underlying the different theories of therapy. Persons who have received practical training under expert supervision can practice psychotherapy, and not everybody. An untrained person may unintentionally cause more harm than any good. The psychotherapeutic situation involves a therapist and a client who seeks and receive help for his or her emotional problems. Fourth, the interaction of these two persons, the therapist and the client, results in consolidation of the therapeutic relationship. This is a confidential, interpersonal, and dynamic relationship. The human relationship is central to any sort of psychological therapy and is the vehicle for change. All psychotherapies aim at a few or all of the following goals: reinforcing clients' resolve for betterment, lessening emotional pressure, unfolding the potential for positive growth, modifying habits, changing thinking patterns, increasing self awareness, imposing interpersonal relations and communication, facilitating decision making, becoming aware of one's choice in life, relating to one's social environment in a more creative and self aware manner. Therapeutic relationship. The special relationship between the client and the therapist is known as therapeutic relationship or alliance. It is neither a passing acquaintance nor a permanent and lasting relationship. There are two major components of a therapeutic alliance. The first component is the contractual nature of the relationship, in which two willing individuals, the client and the therapist, enter into a partnership which aims at helping the client overcome his or her problems. The second component of therapeutic alliance is the limited duration of the therapy. This alliance lasts until the client becomes able to deal with his or her life problems and take control of his or her life. This relationship has several unique properties. It is a trusting and confiding relationship. The high level of trust enables the client to unburden himself or herself to the therapist and confide in him or her regarding the psychological and personal problems. The therapist encourages this by accepting empathy, genuine, and warm to the client. The therapist conveys by his or her words and behaviors that he or she will not judge the client and will continue to show the same positive feelings towards the client, even if the client is rude or confides all the wrong things that he or she might have done or thought about. This is the unconditional positive regard which the therapist has for the client. The therapist has empathy for the client. Empathy is different from sympathy and intellectual understanding of another person's situation. In sympathy, one has compassion and pity towards the suffering of another but is not able to feel like the other person. Intellectual understanding is cold in the sense that the person is unable to feel like the other person and does not feel sympathy either. On the other hand, empathy is present when one is able to understand the plight of another person and feel like the other person. It means understanding things from the other person's perspective, that is, putting oneself in another person's shoes. Empathy enriches the therapeutic relationship and transforms it into a healing relationship. Types of therapies. Though all psychotherapies aim at removing human distress and fostering effective behavior, they differ greatly in concepts, methods, and techniques. Psychotherapists may be classified into three broad groups, that is, psychodynamic, behavior, and existential psychotherapies. In terms of chronological order, psychodynamic theory emerges while followed by behavior therapy, while the existential therapies, which are also called the third force, emerge last. The classification of psychotherapies is based on the following parameters. What is the cause which has led to the problem? Psychodynamic theories or therapy is of the view that intrapsychic conflicts, that is, the conflicts that are present within the psyche of a person, are the source of psychological problems. Although the behavior therapies, psychological problems arise due to faulty learning of behaviors and cognitions. The existential therapies postulate that the questions about the meaning of one's life and existence are the cause of psychological problems. How did the cause come into existence? In psychodynamic theory, unfulfilled desires of childhood and unresolved childhood fears lead to intrapsychic conflicts. The behavior therapy postulates that faulty conditioning patterns, faulty learning, and faulty thinking and beliefs lead to maladaptive behaviors that, in turn, lead to psychological problems. The existential therapy places importance on the present. It is the current feelings of loneliness, alienation, sense of futility of one's existence, etc., which causes psychological problems. What is the chief method of treatment? Psychodynamic therapy uses the methods of free association and reporting of dreams to elicit the thoughts and feelings of the client. The material is interpreted to the client to help him or her to confront and resolve the conflicts and thus overcome problems. Behavior therapy identifies the faulty conditioning patterns and sets up alternative behavioral contingencies to improve behavior. The cognitive methods employed in the type of therapy challenge the faulty thinking patterns of the client to help him or her overcome psychological distress. The existential therapy provides a therapeutic environment which is positive, acceptive, and non judgmental. The client is able to talk about the problems, and the therapist is a facilitator. The client arrives at the solutions through a process of personal growth. What is the nature of the therapeutic relationship between the client and the therapist? Psychodynamic therapy assumes that the therapist understands the client's intrapsychic conflicts better than the client, and hence, it is the therapist who interprets the thoughts and feelings of the client to him or her so that he or she gains understanding of the same. The behavior therapy assumes that the therapist is able to discern the faulty behavior and thoughts patterns of the client. It further assumes that the therapist is capable of finding out the correct behavior and thought pattern which would be adaptive for the client. Both the psychodynamic and behavior therapies assume that the therapist is capable of arriving at solution to clients' problems. In contrast to these therapies, the existential therapy emphasizes that the therapist merely provides a warm, empathetic relationship in which the client feels secure to explore the nature and cause of his or her problems by him or herself. What is the chief benefit to the client? Psychodynamic therapy values emotional insight as the important benefit that the client derives from the treatment. Emotional insight is present when the client understands his or her conflict intellectually, is able to accept the same emotionally, and is able to change for his or her emotions towards his conflicts. The client's symptoms are distress reduce as a sequence and consequence of these emotional insight. The behavior therapy considers changing faulty behaviors and thought patterns to adaptive ones as the chief benefit of the treatment. Instituting adaptive or healthy behavior and thought patterns ensures reduction of distress and removal of symptoms. The humanistic therapy values personal growth as the chief benefit. Personal growth is the process of gaining and increasing understanding of oneself and one's aspirations, emotions, and motives. What is the duration of treatment? The duration of classical psychological and psychoanalysis may continue for several years. However, recent versions of psychodynamic therapies are completed in 10 to 15 sessions. Behavior and cognitive behavior therapies, as well as existential therapies, are shorter than and are completed in a few months. Thus, different types of psychotherapies differ on multiple parameters. However, they share all of them the common method of providing treatment for psychological distress through psychological means. The therapist, the therapeutic relationship, and the process of therapy become the agents of change in the client, leading to the alleviation of psychological distress. The process of psychotherapy begins by formulating the client's problem. Methods of eliciting the nature of intrapsychic conflict. Since the psychoanalysis approach views intrapsychic conflicts to be the cause of psychological disorder, the first step is the treatment to the elicit this intrapsychic conflict. Psychoanalysis has invented free association and dream interpretation as two important methods for eliciting intrapsychic conflicts. The free association method is the main method for understanding the client's problems. Once a therapeutic relationship is established, the client feels comfortable. The therapist makes him or her lie down on the couch, close his or her eyes, and asks him or her to speak whatever comes to mind without censoring it in any way. The client is encouraged to freely associate one thought with another, and this method is called the method of free association. The censoring superego and watchful ego are kept in abeyance as the client speaks whatever comes to his mind in an atmosphere that is relaxed and trusting. As the therapist does not interrupt the free flow of ideas, desires, and conflicts of the unconscious, which had been suppressed by the ego, emerge into conscious mind. This free, uncensored verbal narrative of the client is a window into the client's unconscious to which the therapist gains access. Modality of treatment. Transference and interpretation are the means of treating the patient. As the unconscious force and is brought into conscious realm through free association and dream interpretation described above, the client starts identifying the therapist with the authority figure of the past, usually childhood. The therapist may be seen as the punitive father or as the negligent mother. The therapist maintains a non judgmental yet permissive attitude and allows the client to continue this with the process of emotional identification. This is the process of transference. The therapist encourages this process because it helps him or her in understanding the unconscious conflicts of the client. The client acts out his or her frustrations, anger, fear, and depression that he or she harbored towards the person in the past but could not express at that time. The therapist becomes a substitute for the person in the present. This stage is called transference neurosis. A full blown transference neurosis is helpful in making the therapist aware of the nature of the intrapsychic conflicts suffering by the client. There is a positive transference in which the client idolizes or falls in love with the therapist and seeks the therapist's approval. Negative transference is present when the client has feelings of hostility, anger, and resentment towards the therapist. The process of transference is met with resistance. Interpretation is the fundamental mechanism by which things are effected. Confrontation and clarification are two analytical techniques of interpretation. In confrontation, the therapist points out to the client an aspect of his or her psyche that must be faced by the client. Clarification is the process by which the therapist brings a vague or confusing event into sharp focus. This is done by separating and highlighting important details about the event from unimportant ones. Interpretation is a more subtle process. It is considered to be the pinnacle of psychoanalysis. The therapist uses the unconscious material that has been uncovered in the process of free association, dream interpretation, transference, and resistance to make the client aware of the psychic contents and conflicts which have led to the occurrence of certain events, symptoms, and conflicts. The outcome of working through is insight. Insight is not a sudden event but a gradual process wherein unconscious memories are repeated, integrated into conscious awareness. These unconscious events and memories are re experienced in transference and are worked throughout. As this process continues, the client starts to understand himself or herself better at an intellectual and emotional level and gains insight into his or her conflicts and problems. The intellectual understanding is the intellectual insight. The emotional understanding, acceptance of one's irrational reaction to the unpleasant events of the past, and the willingness to change emotionally as well as making the change is emotional insight. Insight is the end point of therapy as client has gained a new understanding of himself or herself. In turn, the conflicts of the past, defense mechanisms, and physical symptoms are no longer present, and the client becomes a psychologically healthy person. Psychoanalysis is terminated at this stage. Duration of treatment. Psychoanalysis lasts for several years with one session for 4 to 5 days per week. It is an intense treatment. There are 3 stages in the treatment. Stage 1 is the initial phase. The client becomes familiar with routines, establishes a therapeutic relationship with the analyst, and gets some relief with the process of recollecting the superficial materials from the unconsciousness about the past and present troublesome events. Stage 2 is the middle phase, which is a long process. It is characterized by transference, resistance on the part of the client, and confrontation and clarification. Behavior therapy. Behavior therapies postulate that psychological distress arises because of faulty behavioral patterns or thought patterns. It is therefore focused on the behaviors and thoughts of the client in the present. The past is relevant only to the extent of understanding the origins of the faulty behavior and thought patterns. The past is not activated or relieved. Only faulty patterns are corrected in the present. Method of treatment. The client with psychological distress or physical symptoms which cannot be attributed to physical disease is interviewed with a view to analyze him or his or her behavioral patterns. Behavioral analysis is conducted to find malfunctioning behaviors, the antecedents of faulty learning, and the factors that maintain or continue faulty learning. Malfunctioning behaviors are those behaviors which cause distress to the client. Maintaining factors are those factors that lead to persistence of faulty behavior. Once the faulty behaviors which cause distress have been identified, a treatment package is chosen. The aim of treatment is to extinguish or eliminate the faulty behaviors and substitute them with adaptive behavioral patterns. The therapist does this through establishing an antecedent operations and consequent operations. Antecedent operations control behavior by changing something that precedes such a behavior. The change can be done by increasing or decreasing the reinforcing value of a particular consequence. This is called establishing operation. Behavioral techniques. A range of techniques is available for changing behavior. The principles of these techniques are to reduce the arousal level of the client, alter behavior thought, classical through classical conditioning or operant conditioning. Negative reinforcement and aversive conditioning are two major techniques of behavior modification. Aversive conditioning refers to the repetitive and repeated association of undesired response with a aversive consequence. For example, an alcoholic is given a mild electric shock and asked to smell alcohol, with repeated pairings, the smell of alcohol is aversive as the pain of the shock is associated with it and a person will give up alcohol. If the adaptive behavior occurs rarely, positive reinforcement is given to increase the deficit. Unwanted behavior can be reduced and unwanted behavior can be increased simultaneously through differential reinforcement. Positive reinforcement for the behavior wanted and the wanted behavior and negative reinforcement for the unwanted behavior attempted together may be one such method. The other method is to positively reinforce the wanted behavior and ignore the unwanted behavior. The latter method is less painful and equally effective. You will hear about phobias and irrational fears in the previous chapter. Semantic desensitization is a technique introduced by Wolpe for treating phobias or irrational fears. The client is interviewed to elicit fear-provoking situations and put together with the client, the therapist prepares a hierarchy of anxiety-provoking stimuli with the least anxiety-provoking stimuli at the bottom of the hierarchy. The therapist relaxes the client and asks the boy to think about the least anxiety provoking situation. The principle of reciprocal inhibition operates here. This principle states that the presence of two mutually opposing forces at the same time inhibits the weaker force. Thus, the relaxation response is first built up by a mildly anxiety provoking scene is imagined and the anxiety is overcome by relaxation. The client is able to tolerate progressively greater levels of anxiety because his or her relaxed state. Modeling is the procedure wherein the client learns to behave in a certain way by observing the behavior of a role model or the therapist who initially is the role model. Cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapies locate the cause of psychological distress in irrational thoughts and beliefs. Albert Ellis formulated rational emotive theory (RET). The central thesis of this therapy is that irrational beliefs meditate between antecedent events and their consequences. The first step in RET is the antecedent belief consequence analysis. Antecedent events which caused the psychological distress are noted. The client is also viewed to find the irrational beliefs which are distorting the present reality. Irrational beliefs may not be supported by empirical evidence in the environment. These beliefs are characterized by thoughts with musts and shoulds, that is, things must and should be in a particular way. Another cognitive therapy is that of Aaron Beck. His theory of psychological distress characterized by anxiety or depression states that childhood experiences provided by the family and society developed core schemes or systems which include beliefs and action patterns in the individual. Thus, a client who was neglected by the parents as a child develops a core scheme of I am not wanted during his childhood. During the course of life, a critical incident occurs in his or her life. He or she is publicly ridiculed by the teachers in school. This critical incident triggers the core schema of I am not wanted, leading to undevelopment of negative automatic thoughts. Cognitive behavior therapy. The most popular therapy presently is the cognitive behavior therapy. Research into the outcome and effectiveness of psychotherapy has conclusively established CBT to be a short and efficacious treatment for a wide range of psychological disorders such as anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and borderline personality, etc. CBT adopts a biopsychosocial approach to the delineation of psychotherapy. It combines cognitive therapy with behavioral techniques. Humanistic existential therapy. The humanistic existential therapies postulate that psychological distress arises from feelings of loneliness, alienation, and inability to find meaning and genuine fulfillment in life. Human beings are motivated by the desire of personal growth and self actualization, and an innate need to grow emotionally. When these needs are curbed by society and family, human beings experience psychological distress. Self actualization is defined as an innate or inborn force that moves the person to become more complex, balanced, and integrated. That is, achieving the complexity and balance without being fragmented. Integrated means a sense of whole being in a complete person. Being in essence the same person in spite of variety of experiences that one is subjected to, just as lack of food or water causes distress, frustration of self-actualization also causes distress. Existential therapy. Viktor Franklin, a psychiatrist and neurologist, propounded the logotherapy. Logos in Greek is a word for soul, and logotherapy means treatment of the soul. Franklin calls this process of finding meaning, even in life threatening circumstances, as the process of meaning making. The basis of meaning making is a person's quest to find the spiritual truth of one's existence. Biomedical therapy. Medicines may have prescribed to treat psychological disorders. Prescription of medicines for treatment of mental disorders is done by qualified medical professionals known as psychiatrists. They are medical doctors who are specialized in the understanding, diagnosis, and treatment of mental disorders. The nature of medicines used depends on the nature of the disorders. Severe mental disorders such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorders require antipsychotic drugs. Common mental disorders such as generalized anxiety or reactive depression may also require milder drugs. The medicines prescribed to treat mental disorders can cause side effects which need to be understood and monitored. Hence, it is essential that medication is given under proper medical supervision. Even the drugs which normal individuals use to stay awake, to study for examinations, or to get a high at the party have dangerous side effects. These drugs can cause addiction and harm the brain and the body. Therefore, it is dangerous to self-medicate with drugs which affect the mind. Ethics in psychotherapy. Some of the ethical standards that need to be practiced by professional psychotherapists are: informed consent needs to be taken. Confidentiality of the client should be maintained. Alleviating personal distress and suffering should be the goal of all attempts of the therapist. Integrity of the practitioner-client relationship is important. Respect for human rights and dignity. Professional competence and skills are essential. Alternative therapies. Alternative therapies are so called because they are alternative treatment possibilities to the conventional drug treatment or psychotherapies. There are many alternative therapies such as yoga, medication, acupuncture, herbal remedies, and so on. In the past 25 years, yoga and medication have gained popularity as treatment programs for psychological distress. Yoga is an ancient Indian technique detailed in the Asthana Yoga of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Yoga is as it is commonly called today either refers only to the asanas or body posture components or the breathing practice or pranayama or to a combination of the both. Meditation refers to the practice of focusing attention on a breath or an object or thought or a mantra. Here, attention is focused. The rapid breathing techniques that induce hyperventilation, such as Sudarshana Kriya Yoga, etc., is found to be a beneficial technique, low risk, low cost, stress relieving, anxiety relieving, and post traumatic disorder releasing technique. Rehabilitation of the mentally ill. The treatment of psychological disorders has two components, that is, reduction of symptoms and improving the level of functioning of quality of life. In the case of milder disorders such as generalized anxiety, reactive depression, or phobia, reduction of symptoms in association with an improvement in the quality of life. However, in such cases of severe mental disorders such as schizophrenia, reduction of symptoms may not be associated with an improvement in the quality of life. Many patients suffer from negative symptoms such as disinterest and lack of motivation to do work or to interact with other people. Rehabilitation is required to help such patients become self sufficient. The aim of rehabilitation is to empower the patient to become a productive member of society to the extent possible. In rehabilitation, the patients are given occupational therapy, social skills training, and vocational therapy. In occupational therapy, the patients are taught skills such as candle making, paper bag making, and weaving to help them form a work discipline. Social skills training helps the patients to develop interpersonal skills through role play, imitation, and instruction. The objective is to teach patient to function in a social group. Cognitive retraining is given to improve the basic cognitive functions of attention, memory, and executing functions. After the patient improves sufficiently, vocational training is given wherein the patient is helped to gain skills necessary to undertake productive employment.